Hi everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick as usual and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to look at consuming category API endpoint in a Blazor WebAssembly eCommerce app, which is the online phone shop. You can do any of the following to support this channel. You can subscribe and hit on the notification bell to receive updates on upcoming content. You can also like this video by clicking on the thumbs up icon. And the last one is you can buy me a hot coffee. You can do that from the video description. Thank you in advance for selecting any of these, and I will love you so much for selecting all. I do offer training sessions for those who are interested in .NET technologies. That is Blazor, which comprises of the Blazor 7 and the Blazor WebAssembly for web app. We have .NET MAUI and .NET Blazor Hybrid for mobile app, and .NET Web API for web services. If you're interested, you can write me through an email specified in the video description. We've started a project that is the eCommerce, and that is going to be the fifth video on that. If you haven't watched any of these, then please check the description. I'll put a playlist there, and I also put individual videos in there. You can start from the part 1 up to the current part, which is going to be the part 5. So in part 4 of this series, we created this category endpoint, and if you check here, you can see we have the category get all categories, and you can see we have this the post category. So we added one category in here, and that is the Apple phones. So you can add more. But the question is, how do you integrate this API? How do you call this API in the Blazor web app? Because you don't want to add a category from this interface. Rather, you want to get a form that we can submit and get it saved and also retrieve them and display in our Blazor WebAssembly. That is what you're going to have a look. So I'm going to close this and let's get back to the code. Now, this video, I'm going to put the rest, that's the previous one in the video description. So if you haven't watched any of them, please then do check from the first one up to this. That's going to be the fifth part. So I will just close this up. Okay, so in here, first of all, when you check our Solution Explorer, you can see that you have this project created. And on the part 4 video, we worked on the server. So this time around, you're going to close the server for now. And we want to concentrate on the client. So you can see here, we have a folder called Pages, and that is where we have all our components. We want to organize it because, you know, when creating a package or when creating an app, organization is very important. If you organize your work, it becomes very easy or easier for you to identify a component in it. So you can group them. So we're going to create 3 folders, and that is what you're going to be using to group them. You're going to have a category pages. You're going to have other pages. You're going to have a product pages as well. So quickly, let's create these 3 folders. So we do that in the pages folder. Okay, so I'm going to create the first one, and here I'm going to say category pages. And this is going to contain all our category components. We're also going to have product pages. And the last one is going to be other pages. So all our shared components can also be put in here. I'm going to say other pages. So I am not saying that you should use the same name for yours, right? You can give it a different name altogether. Okay, so in this, let's try to put this here. So you see there's an add or update product component. So definitely it's going to go into this product pages. So move into the product pages. And also when you have this busy button, it must be in the other pages because it's a shared component that we are using. If you check this, we have this busy button. That is this one I'm talking about. So drag this to the other pages. I think there's an issue here. You can see the add or update must be in the product like this. Okay, then busy button must be inside the other pages. I believe you're doing the same thing. Now featured product must be inside the product pages. And we have front page that is also, it could also be in the product pages. Okay, now message dialog must be in the other page. Okay, so we have our components organized. Now if I close this, let's say, so other pages featured product must be in the product. And our message dialog must be inside the other pages. That's fine. Busy button must be in the other pages like this. Okay, so that is what we need. Now, if I close all of these they have this mother component, that is a home .razor. So that's the parent component that we are using here. Now we have to change the references. So control period, let's include the namespace for this. So here we're using this phone shop.page.product pages. This is where it's coming from. Okay, so we have it saved here. Okay, so I believe let's build it and see. In case you have any linking wrong, we're going to have it popped up. So let's build this. You can only build the client section. So we see we have one pop-up and it's saying that the message dialog, it is not found. So where is it? Okay, so this one, we have to use control period and we have to use the namespace instead. So as you can see, there's a namespace. So we can just go up here, grab this, cut this, save. Let's go to the import and paste it over there. So that's going to be the import.razor. And now let's add it here. Okay, so we can also add the other two pages too, because definitely we are going to be using them. So pages, then dot, we have our product pages. So we've created our endpoint for the category. So we must also create a service to call this category from the API. So let's go in there now and do that. And when you go to solution, because we have a service folder created, let's add one interface, and that's going to be iCategory service. So let's go in for an interface in here. And now the name is going to be iCategory service. So in this is what you want to do. We want to add category, and also we want to get all categories. So we're going to add two methods here. So it is return a service response when we add, and I get all categories. So let's create an interface. So no, that's going to be in the implementation class. So instead of creating the implementation class, you want to organize this in one file. So we have our client service. So let's add it here so we can implement this. So this is going to be iCategory service. Now control period, we are going to implement the interface of this. That is the two methods that we have added. Okay. So we have them here, add category, and also get all categories. So maybe we can put this. It's going to be categories. And now on top here, that is product. So as you can see, we have this method, right? This method are here. And maybe what we're going to do here is we can put this in one static class, so we can be using them maybe somewhere else. Okay, so let's do that. Because when we get to authentication, we're going to use the serialized and undeserialized content. So let's put it in one static class, and let's create a class here in the services folder. Now let's name it as, what name should we give it to? Generics, I think, or general, generics or general. Well, let's use this general because they're going to be a general method that we're going to be calling. So this is going to be a static class. So static class means it creates the instance once and it can be used all over. It keeps it so that it can be used all over in the application. Okay, so we don't want to be creating an instance of this all the time. So let's make it as one, boom, and that's all. Okay, like a gun. All right, so let's cut this and let's move it into this class. And all of these must not be private anymore. They must be public. So we can have access to us outside the scope of this. So let's make them public. All right. So we see that once we have this, definitely we're going to have an error in the client service, isn't it? So what we're going to do here is, in creating a static class, you don't need to inject it. you don't need to register it or create a dependency injection. No, you don't have to do that. What you do here is just use the class directly in the application, and boom, that is all. Okay, no stress, it's stress-free. So let's say it's general dot, and that's all that we need. So here too, we need the same general. So in programming, one of the rules here says that do not repeat yourself. So we don't want to be copying and pasting all this stuff. So we put it in one class, as you know, and we can now be using it all over everywhere that you want to call it. So let's say general dot, and that is all. Okay, so you can see we have a simple class here, a simple method as well. So control period, let's remove all these using it because we don't need them here. All right, so we have this. We can also have another one. So here, instead of having base URL, we're going to say this is product base URL. Maybe some you like to prefer maybe using the product base URL and setting up only the API. Okay, so you can pass in the name and add, but I also like to store it here. So category base URL. So here, instead of the product, it's going to be category. I believe you're getting it. Because when we check an API, it's a category API. All right, so once you have that, it means that you have to make changes to where we use this base URL. So I believe you are doing the same. That is it. So we have it set and done. Now let's go to the add category. It is the same as this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, I like copy and paste much because it makes coding very, it makes it easier. Yeah, easier than typing. So let's paste this in here. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to change this from what? Tell me. Yes, from this category, from the product to category base URI. So let's add it here. Now, I believe so. So here we're making a post. This must be an async because since it's a task, you must have an async to wait. And that is it. Okay, we also check our response and error. Okay, try again, the same thing. And we have same thing here. So maybe this is what we can do. We can just, we have one class like this. We also have another one like this. You see? So can we do something to return? Or can we do something here so we can put this in one class? We can be calling this to check. Yes, we can do that. Let's figure out how to do this. So maybe in here, let's try to pass in something that's going to be private. And what is going to be the return type here? It's going to be HTTP response. So HTTP response. I told you that once you do this, you also optimize our code to make it very simple and clear. We don't want to repeat stuff. So it's return a response. And now here we are going to say check response. Okay. Now, with this, what is it accepting? It is also accepting the same thing here because it is accepting the same response. So it is accepting the HTTP message, response message as response. Then in here, so maybe we don't want to return this response. We want to return this service response. Okay, so let's make it as this private service response. And you pass in the HTTP response message, and now we can move this. So read response, let's cut this, and let's paste it here. So this response, when we check and the status code, it is, well, as you can see from this, it is not success. As you can see, we are negating it. So it is not success. Then I want to return this response. But in case it is success, what you're going to do, then maybe we can return true. Or we can return something like this. So let's see, we can just copy this. And let's paste in here. Else. So that is if the response here, it is in success code, then let's return here as true. And there's going to be, we can make it as null. You don't return any message. Okay. So with this, we are checking. So what we're going to do here is, let's copy this. And now we're going to say that since we're going to return this service response, we're going to say var and response is equal to. Now let's call this, passing this response. You see? And that is all. So with this response, this is supposed to be results. Or this, it is accepting this model. as you can see, it accepting a flag and a message. So maybe we can even say that flag and message. You see, so this is a tuple that we are using. Now this flag and message, we want to return this. So once we have this, is what we can do, or maybe we can also return, because then we have to return this response. So let's make it as results, so we can get all of them. Then we say if results, not response, the results dot, and now this result has a flag. So if this is true, then what you want to do, or if this is false. So if this is false, meaning it is returning this, okay, then what we're going to do here is return results. So this is a code optimization. We're optimizing it, and we want to create a general so we can be using it all the time. So here we check, we call this, we pass in this response. It comes in and check the status code. Is it found in the status code? If yes, then return true. If no, return false. And then we are checking if it is false, meaning it is returning this. Then return the response here to the tags here, and that is all. But in case it is not, then we have this result in here, and now we are going to read it as a content. So with this too, we can also put this in one line. So maybe down here or here, we can say that it is a private and return a string, and we say read content. So this read content, what can we pass in? We can pass in this response. Okay, so let's pass in the same HTTP response message, and I will say this also response. So let's make this as response. And now in this, we are now going to move this. You cut this here, then you return it. So instead of using this, here must be an async. And you know that as soon as it becomes an async, it must be a task of, then you have to pass in the return type as string. So here we want to return this. Okay, so in order to do that, we can use this lambda expression to handle this. So let's make it this lambda, and I remove this. Okay, so Control KD, we format it well. So this too, we are reading the response as a string. So we just have to copy this. Then we come here and I will say var content is equal to, or we can still make it an API response. So API response is equal to, here must be an await, paste in the name, then there is a method, and now this method needs in what? If you check this, it needs in an HTTP message response. So you pass in the result like this. No, it's not response, because this is coming as a service response. So you pass in this response instead. So you pass in this. You see? So we have two methods that we can be using all over again. All right. So now we have this add product is done. And we can copy the same add product here. We grab this, and I will go to the add category. And in here, we can just paste this. Now let's go in and I'll grab the category base URL, come here and I'll replace it. So you can see that we are using this general method. Now let's put this method down at the base, so we can say it is a general method. So we say this is general method. So instead of repeating this severally, we are going to create it once, then we can now be using. So let's see, control period. This we can make it as a static, and we can also make this, let's see, as a static as well. But since we have an async task, yeah, let's run it and see if it is possible. Okay, so it is now set and done. All right. So you see here we are done. That is it. We are done for this. Let's go to the add categories. That is the get all categories. So we can also copy the same thing from here. And now with this, let's paste this here. Maybe you'll be asking yourself, why shouldn't we check? Yeah, we can also check this. So this is going to be an async. But you know that here we are returning, you want to grab this, and we are returning, check here, there's a task. So this task, it must be a task, a list. So you must have a list of products that we should return. When you check this, we are returning a list of products. So here must also be a list of category. So here must be a list of category. You can just grab this from here and now paste it. Okay. And with this, we have this product base, and we are not passing any query string. So it's an API passing our product, and this is going to be our category base URL. So that is all that we need. So you can see that we can still make good use of this check response. You know, this check response, what is it doing? You know, it checks it and I return a service response. So maybe this is what we can do. We can just grab this check response. Then here we can just say that. So var result is equal to, we can now check response, passing this response. Okay, and now see, if the response is in status code, you're going to return true. Okay, but if not, it's going to return false. So we're going to say that if result dot, no, that is this result that we have to get. So if this result dot, so flag. So this means that's going to return true. And now we're saying that if false, then we can return now. Okay, so you can see we are also checking out this. So if this result.flag is false, then we can return now. Or maybe we can just use a tuple in here as a flag and as message. So with this message, we are not going to use this message, so we can use this card to hold this message. Then we say if this flag, so let's remove all this. So if it is false, then return now. We don't need the message, that's why we're using this card to hold that. Okay, then here we have this response. So result is equal to, now read content as string. So we're going to read this response in here. So we can also call this content, and I'm going to say result is equal to await, then call this. And now let's pass in the response. And that is all. So, and now in here, we have to pass in the results in this to serialize it. And now since this is the category, we have to provide a T value, and that is a category. And that is it. So we're able to also optimize this. Now, what else? Let's grab this and also paste it to this. That's going to be the category section. This is going to be the product. And now in here, maybe we can paste it here and try to change some stuff in. So instead of this, the response, we're going to use this response. And that is all. So here we do this. And now let's change this to product. So instead of category, it's going to be product. And that is it. So you can see that both of these methods, or these four methods, are using the general method that we created in here. All right, so that is what we have to do in this. So do you know, even with the code that we have now, we can still optimize it. Maybe you're asking yourself, wow, what are you to do again? I believe all is said and done. Yes, although it is said, but we can still do it. Let me give you this scenario. You know that this application we are using in the Blazor WebAssembly. So it means that the whole services are going to be downloaded into the client browser. And the app is going to run from the client browser. I believe by now you know what WebAssembly does, isn't it? I give you a thumbs up because I know you have responded. Just that it is only when the client needs the data from an API, that is where a communication must be created. the app must send a link to an API to retrieve the data. Now, when we create our product in our category, we're going to create a list. And now with the list, we're going to be calling the API. So anytime the app calls or the app wants to retrieve the category, it has to call an API. Even though it has called it initially and we have the data at hand, as soon as we view it, we discard it and we have to call it again. So let's say when you have 1,000 or 10,000 more people using the application, and each of them is calling the API one by one, you can see there's going to be a load on the API or the server. So what you're going to do here is, if it is not only delete or update or addition of new one, we don't want to call the API. If it is get, that I retrieve the list of category or the list of product from the API, we have to cache it in the browser so that anytime that I navigate to the next component, or if I return, I must see the same data. I need not to call an API. I'll call the API when I add a new data or I make an edit or an update. So take note. I believe this is clear. Yes, so we want to improve the performance of our system. So we don't want to be calling or making a redundant call once the data has been provided already. We call the same API to retrieve the same data that has been served to you already. We retrieve it, we save it, and now we use it. I believe this is clear. Good. So let's try to modify this code to suit what we want. Okay. So here, instead of us retrieving the list, we want to make it as a task, and it's not going to retrieve anything. So we have a task in here. Okay. So we just make this call and it's going to retrieve. So we can say that if it is false, we are not retrieving now, we are not returning now, we want to return only. And now this two, we are not going to call this, we are not going to return the list here. We are going to store this list and now put it somewhere. But before we get into this, I'm going to bring this back. Okay, let's go to the endpoint in the iCategory service. And now in here, we are going to add all categories. We're going to cache this. So let's create one property and we're going to store this. So when we store, anytime that we retrieve the data, we store it in here. So anytime that you need the data, come to this variable here, which is a list of category, and I retrieve it from here instead of going to the API to make a call, wasting time and resources. No, it is already prepared for you. Take it and now consume it. And that is all. So once we have this, but we can do this, we cannot do this without using an action, because when we retrieve this data, we want to refresh or tell the application or the components who's going to subscribe to this that a data has been retrieved. Even when we call the data from the API, we have to notify the component to also get themselves updated. Okay, so whatever thing that happens in here must also happen outside. So you have to do that. We can use an action to do that. And that is the reason why I am bringing this action. So action, we can also use an event callback. But for now, let's use an action because event callback has a status change object in it that refreshes the application all the time. But maybe in actions, we don't want to reload the application. We want to just notify, tell some people something. And that is all. We want to convey a message and that will be all. Okay, so we say category action. So we have two methods added. I hope this is clear and you're doing the same. Thank you. Let's save this. And now let's go back to the client service. Definitely, we're going to have an error in here because we need to implement these interfaces. You see that? Good. So once we have this set, control period, let's implement the interfaces here. So you can see we have this action, and all the time actions must be nullable. Take note. So we have our get and we have our set accessors. So let's make sure we put them in the correct format. Okay, now the list is going to be also get and now set. So let's remove this and now have our get and set. That's fine. Okay. So we have this. The next thing that we're going to do here is, if we check down here, let's first work on a category before we work on the product. Okay. So we want to return null from this side. And now with this, instead of returning this, we're going to say that it is the data is equal to, then we want to store it in here. So in here, we can just remove this so we can store it here. Now, first thing that we're doing here is we are going to check if all this category, so if this list is empty. So let me just minimize this because I'm working on the category. So if this all categories list, it is empty, that is when we want to make a call to the API. So this get all categories, and now we can check it from here. You want to say that if this is null, then call this category. So get this response, and we call this over the same thing as this. Okay, so we are calling this as a response from this. We can just cut this, replace this here, and here we need to check the status, and now passing the response to serialize this. So since we have our own already, we can just grab this, cut this, and I replace this with this. Okay, so we check our response, then we return null. So we're going to return in case the response is not in the status code. And in case it is, then we're going to read the content, and I'm going to deserialize this list. Okay, over here. Then after deserializing this, so instead of storing this here, we can just come here and copy this. So anytime that this method is called, we get the value or the list from the database, and now we cache it in here. Okay, so once you have this, it means we have to look to this so we can store this. Let's see. So we say add an explicit cast. So it's a list, and okay, so all categories, send is a list. We list of categories. We are also deserializing it as a list from the results, because this result is coming as a list. Then we add it to this. Aside from that, we invoke this. So when this method is called, any component which are subscribed to this method is going to re-render or going to get notified to retrieve the current data that we have. This is going to work only when this category it is null. Okay. If not, then we're going to return. Anytime that we call this method, it's going to return empty here. Nothing going to happen because this all categories here, it is not null. Take note. But the next thing is, what in case we add data or we delete data? Then what can we do? In such case, we don't want to clear all this category content. Okay, and then get it again. You can also clear this. There are several ways to do that. You can set this category content to null and then call this method. When you do that, it's going to call this method again and assign the list to this categories. But maybe we can also force get all data. So we can force get all categories. So in doing that, we can just make a method like this. So we can just get all categories, get all categories. And now we can just create another method. But I prefer anytime that you want to get all categories, you want to force get, we set this all category to null. So that's the why we've created it here. We set this to null, and as soon as we set this to null and call this method, this will be now going to execute this and now assign it to that. So we can use this one method in two multiple ways. Okay. So now that we have this category set, let's also do same for the product. So we have one method which is going to be used all the time. Now we go back to the same general, and now not the general, we go back to the, so this is going to be the iCategory service. We go to the iProduct service. So we have an iProduct service, and let's create another list in here. So instead of this is going to be task. Okay, so get all product, and now within this task, we're going to have a list of products. So a list of products. And we're going to say all product, and we can now pass in this. Is it featured or not? We can pass in this, or we don't need to. This is just a list. Okay, so we can just save it like this. So all product. Now let's save this, and now when we go back to the client service, we also have to add an action in here to invoke it. So let's put this on top. So product action, And that is also, let's go back to the client service. And in the product, there's a category, so we are done with the category. Get all category 2, we are done. Now when you check this product, we have this get all, so this must be a task. That is all. And let's implement the other 2. So we have the list and then the action. So we can just create this. Okay. So that is it. We have this also set. Now when you get to the get all product, so in here, like we can create one method in here as private, and I'm just going to return HTTP response message, and I will say this is get product. So from API. Okay. Then in here, we're going to specify a boolean, and that is it featured or not? So is it featured? If it is featured, then we want to pass in and grab this. So we're going to say, we're going to cut this from here. And now in here, let's paste this. So here this must be an async. And as soon as you have an async, you must also have a task. And this must be surrounded like this. Okay, so we are returning and now passing here featured. So if it is true, this is going to be true. If it is a false, this is going to be false. So here, let's use this lambda expression to handle this. So that's what we are doing. So we can be calling this often. So we call this method passing the type, is it featured or not? Then we can retrieve this, that is get products from the API. Okay, there's going to be a list of products. Okay, so now we have this. What we're going to do here is let's copy this, and now in here we're going to say so var let's have a look at this response is equal to an await. Then we can call this method get product. Now pass in this featured, and then that will be all. Okay, so with this, what is the next thing to do? So anytime that we call this method, we check if the featured product that is coming in, it is true or false. So we can copy this, and then we can say if this is true, it means you want to call method. That is, we want to get all products which are only featured. Okay, and if this is false, it means we want to get all products which we want to get all the products. So we're going to paste this here, and if this, we can negate it here if it is false. So if it is true, then check this, and here we can also check if this is true, and so let's see, and okay, all products, so this all product is null. That is where we want to make a call. So in this case, we call this method. So we can just call this. Let's call now check. So we cut this in here. We call this method. As you can see from this, we pass in the featured, and that's going to be the true. And here we check the response. And if it is not working, we return. But in case it's working, we want to read the content from this. So you read this content from this. After reading this content, instead of returning this, we're not going to return. As we did for the category, we are also going to just assign this. So let's remove all this. And I'm going to say all product is equal to, and definitely we are going to cast it to the product. So control period, let's add an explicit cast. Then let's set it like that. Okay, so that is when this is true, and now all product is null. Okay, in case it is not, then going to return. Then we're gonna say return, or you can just leave it. So instead of it finishing and now coming up to the next one like this, we can just have return in here. So it doesn't come to the next one. Then in case this is false, what can we do? We can do same. So we can just grab this and now paste this here. You see? And we pass in the false in here. And I'm going to pass in the object name in here. So instead of repeating this code, can we make it in a simple way? Yes, we can. So we're going to cut this like that. Then let's also create one method. Today we are optimizing the code very well. So we say this is a private. And here we're going to say get product. So this get product. And now this method is going to let this return a list. So this should return a list. So this is going to be a task. And this will return a list of products. Okay, so get product. And now what you're going to do here is we pass in bool featured. And let's paste in this. So you must have this closing one. Control KD. And now in here, let's pass in, let's paste what we have here. Okay, so this must be an async. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Since this, we are putting it into one form, then we can just cut this from here. Then we can paste it here. So we are getting this response, then we can remove this. So here, what you need here is pass in this, the value here, and it's going to check. So we call this method, pass in this method, we pass in here, and check if everything is working. Then in case it is not, then return null. But in case it is working, then you want to read content of this. And now we have this, so we can return this. So let's remove this one. Okay, so we are returning this list. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Now we save that. So when we come here, we can just remove this. And now we are saying that if this is null, that is featured product. If this is true, come here, if it is true, and if all products also null, then you want to call this method. So we say var results is equal to await. Let's paste this, and now pass in this featured product. Okay, so after we receive it, what we're going to do next here is this is going to return a list. So we can just remove this, and this is a featured product. So this get all products. So we're going to say this get all product is equal to, maybe we can assign it straight ahead like this. Okay, so we can assign it. Then maybe we can return. So that is all. And in case it is not, in case you want to retrieve only featured product, so this means that you have to also add a featured product. So we go to the iProduct service, and we're going to copy same, and now we say this is featured product. So you want to retrieve only featured products, we go back again, and now in here we can implement this. So we can just duplicate this and I say featured product. Then we can copy this and we can assign this. Okay, so here we copy, then we assign. So making this as featured, assign it here. And I will check if this is false and featured is featured product. So if this is false and our featured product is null, that's only when you want to, that's only when we want to call this. Okay, so we have this set, and here we can also return this. But once we are done, aside from that, so instead of returning this, maybe this is what we can do. We want to check this, or we can just invoke this in here. So we say product action dot invoke, and this must be nullable. We copy same, and now down here we paste it. Okay, so Control KD, that's what we are doing. So we are checking for featured product and also checking for all products. So in case anytime that you want to make a false call, then we set this featured product to null. We set this featured product to null, or we set this all product to null. Then we call this. So when you call this, it's going to pass in a parameter as featured, and now it's going to make a call to get this product, and now this product is going to get from the API, and I return. So this is going to be called anytime that we want to do that. Okay, so we have optimized this code, and that's the whole code that we have in here. Very simple one. Now when we get to this add product, that's where the problem comes in. You know, with the add product, anytime that we add, we need to call this method so we can retrieve the data which has been added from the database to add it to the current one. So in here we copy this, get all product, and after adding it, before we return this response, okay, as access, we want to call this. So await, call this method, and now in here we want to retrieve all product, right? So we can call this and pass in this as, maybe we can specify bool. So featured, so it's true, or we can set this to false. Okay, then we can pass in this method in here. Okay, so we add it here. So what of maybe when you add and you want to, the product you added, you make it as a featured, and here you're not going to retrieve it as a featured. So maybe you can just create one method, and this is going to be just void. Let's say this is going to be an async void. And here we say retrieve or get all. All right, so get all. And we can say that in here, let's set featured, let's move these into this. So we have featured and product. So featured product, this is going to be true. And we can just make a duplicate here, and I say this is all product. So all product, and that is false. Okay, so we call this method, we pass in the featured product. So we retrieve the featured product, and now we also call the same method again, and now we pass in all product. So all product is going to be false. So after we retrieve featured product, so let me just, after we retrieve the featured product, this is going to be false. Then we also want to retrieve this all product. But before we do that, we have to set them to null. So all product is equal to null. Then featured product is also equal to null. So Control K this. So I believe that you understand this. So anytime that you want to get all, and now this method will be called after we add. So after adding this, before we return, let's call this method. And that is all. Here we don't need to make it as a task, or maybe we can make this as a task. So we can wait. Okay, so let's make this a wait. Good. So before we return this, after adding, we want to get this. When we also make a delete, we're also going to call the same method in here. Okay, now let's do same to the category. So that's the category in here, and we can say this is get all product, or let's say clear and get all product. So let me make it clear and get all product. So let's copy this and I replace it here. Okay, and we can just make a copy of this. And now when we come to the product section down here, we can say clear and then get all categories. So let's remove this. So clear and get all categories. Okay, so now we have this. You're going to set all categories to null, and we have to remove this. We don't need any of the because there's no parameter for that. And now with this, we don't also need this. What we need here is to call this get all categories. So await get all categories, and that is all. Because when you check this get all categories, you know that if all categories is null, that is where it is going to call this. Okay, so we do that. We call this to method, we set this to null, and we call this to method, and I think we are good to go. Now after calling this, you know, when it calls this at the end, it's going to invoke this. And when we clear this, when we clear this, and I'm making a call out of this, when we call this at the end from this get all product, it's going to invoke this. That is when all product, featured product has been added. And also when we call this again, that's from the all product to, is going to also invoke this. All right. I believe here there's a mistake here. You can see that if featured is true, meaning we want to retrieve featured product. So it must be featured for this. And now here must be, if featured is false, it means you're going for all product. Yes, so all product. Good. So we make sure we do not make mistakes. So if this is false, if featured product is false, then it means we are retrieving all product. And now if all product is null, so this is how it must be. And now featured product. So we can grab this and now paste it here. Yes, so that is what we want to do now. Okay, so we are going to, we've spent almost getting to 1 hour now for this optimization. I believe this is clear. What you need to do here is to check if this is going to work. Okay, so we close it well. And now when you come here, we call this, we cleared and get all category, but we did not call this. So let's grab this. And after category has been added, and here, after it has been assigned to this, then we want to, so let's see, you can see, before we return a response, await, clear, and now get all categories. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. We go back to, you know, we have from this pages, we have this home page, and in our product page, we have this featured product. Now this featured product, it is getting all featured product. So let's see from here, we have client service.get all product. And now with this, we are passing this featured in here, whereby the featured here is set to true. Okay. So let's see what we have. It says cannot return. So here, this is what we are going to do. We call this method, we pass in the featured, and aside from that, you know, there's a service that is this product service has a class, or that's a variable, a list of product variable here as well as all product and also as featured product. So anytime that we pass in featured product as true, it is going to call products which have a featured set to true. Then we can now assign this. So in here, we don't need to be using this anymore. So we're going to retrieve featured product. We don't need to be using this anymore. Now we can now have, let's say we have this var we can return data is equal to, then you're going to say client service. Okay, so dot, then we see we have this, all product. We have featured product. So let's store this here. After that, we can call this method. But for now, we're going to put a breakpoint in here. And now we're going to check if this is going to work. Then when we run this application, we must have null because the data in there, we have no data in the database since we added a new migration. But let's see, if we're able to retrieve the status code of 200, it means that it is working as expected. So we have an error here. Let's check it out. It seems cannot assign this, and we need to check that that is under the front page component. Yeah, so this cannot be called. And now from this client service, from all products, instead of all these, we can set this featured product. Let's see what we have in here. Under the front page component, we have featured product set. And now, anytime that we call this retrieve featured product, we want to say that featured product is equal to the client service, then dot featured product. Okay, let's try it again. So we check that I have this data added manually, and let's see. So app is now ready. Let's check on API endpoint first. So in here, we paste this /swagger. So if I click on get all product, now product here, click on try this out. Now product is set to, let's say, true. So we have one product as true. You see this price is set to true, as you can see from this is the one that I just added. Now if I set this to false, now let's see, if I click on execute, then I have two products. The one that is set to true, and it's also set to false. I have the two products in here. Let's put a breakpoint in here. Click on continue, and then this must be hit. So let's see, get all product. So get all product, and it calls this. Let's see. So if I click on this, let's see the response in here. Okay, so you can see we have featured product that the count is 1 from the database, right? And now if I click on continue, then let's see. So you can see we have the product in here. Now let's try and see, and this is test. Let's try and see. Let's pass in false to this. And we want to retrieve the two products. So we have the first one as 1, and I want to retrieve the two products. So we pass in false, save this, and now let's refresh this again. So now let's see, if I click on continue, okay, so let's see the next one. I think, okay, so this also hit. Now if I click on this, I must have, or we must have 2, because if it is false, it should retrieve all the data from the database. Let's check it out. So from here, the client service, and now the count must be 2. Yes, you can see we have all product count as 2. If you make a call again, let's see if you're going to call this. So if I click on this, and now if all products, let's click on this. If this is null, then I want to call this. Okay, but this is for the category. So we want to check from the product. This is a product. So let's put a breakpoint here. Let's put a breakpoint here. Then let's close it. All right. So now we are going to get all products. This is a method. So let's see which one will work. So we are going to call this again. All right, so this is hit. Now the value for this featured here is false. So we call this method and we're going to pass in false, right? This is false. So this featured here, it is false. Now if I click on continue, this method is going to get hit. So get all product, this is false. So if this is false, then we're going to navigate to this component or this code. Continue, and you can see we have this code. Now, since it is starting for the first time, the product list here, it is null, because when you check the product list from this, you know, it is null. So if it is null, then it's going to call this. So click on continue. You can see it is calling this, and we're going to, let's see, we have the data in here at the end. So it has now called, and now let's see from the featured one, we have, let's see the featured product. This is null. Now if you check this, all product, you see the count here, it is 2, right? So we have this count as 2. So click on continue. And now when you check this from the client service, we have the count must be 2. As you can see, all products, we have count as 2. So this is working. So continue. And now it's going to show, as you can see, we have it in here. Now, if I also pass in, but if I run this again, let's see what's going to happen. So I'm here, and I click on this product, maybe, and I decide to come back to the home. Let's see. I want us to where this can be hit. Okay, so let's refresh this page again. And now when this method gets hit, we are going to check if this client service has the data already or not. If it has the count as 2, then it's going to skip it. Let's wait. Okay, so we have it hit. Click on continue. And now in here, let's check for this. All product. This is now because we just reload the page. So this is what I'm going to do. In order to see this is working, we want to, let me stop this. Then let's go to the component. Now you can see from here, we have this featured, this front page. Maybe we can add the header here on top as a front. So let's add the page so we can navigate to this page. Let's say this is front. This is for just testing. Okay, so let's now navigate to that page. And let's see from the pages layout, we have this navigation bar, and we have this product. So maybe we can navigate to front. Okay, so now let's run this again. Okay, so we do it again. So continue on, and in this case, this is false already. So we're going to call this, and you know our product is null since it is the first time that we are calling this. So click on null. It's going to call this method, and maybe at the end here, we're going to check. Let me put a breakpoint here. Okay, so continue on. And you can see that this has been hit. So if I check this product, now the count here must be 2. So let's see. You can see now the count here, it is 2. So it has data already. Click on continue. Now continue. Okay, so when we check, the count is 2 from this client service. And you can see from here that we have the count as 2. Okay, so all category is null, but we have all product count is 2. And our featured product is null since because we haven't called that method yet. So click on continue, and then the app is running in here. So if I click on this product, you can see we've navigated to the front component. And now if I click on home again, we are going to call this method. So by that time, all product has data already. So if I click on this and I'll check, you can see all product has count as 2. So we've gotten the data from the API, we've cached it, and now we're making the call to get the same data again from the API. Let's see what will happen. If I click on continue, then it's going to check from our client service. So let's see. So this is false, means it's going to call this. Now click on continue. Now let's check, is this null? Is this product null? Let's see what happens. you can see the count is 2. So if I put a breakpoint here, instead of calling this, it's going to skip this to the end. Let's see. So let me if I click on continue, you can see it has now ended it, and it did not call an API. So it means this is working as expected. We can also try the same thing to the other one. So you can pass in as true. Okay, so here, and now let's reload this. And now this hits. So when you check this feature, it is true. So this feature here, it is true from this section because we added it. You see that is true because we said it is true from here. So if I click on continue, let's see. So it's going to call this. Now featured product is null initially when it loads. So you're going to hit on this. Then you're going to hit on this return. So click on continue. Then you can see it is now getting to the next one. It's going to call this one. Click on continue. And let's wait for the call. So the return has come. Now if I check on this featured product, you see we have the count as 1 because we have one product in here. So let's see. You can see we have count as 1. So if I click on continue, it tells you that now we have the featured product count as 1. Okay, so if I click on this client service, we have our product set to null, and we have featured product as 1. Click on continue. So now we have it in here. Now let's go to our product. So click on any, there's a product. So we navigate to the front page. Okay. And now if I click on this home, it has to call it again. By this time round, the featured product has count of 1 already. There's 1. So let's see what's going to happen. So if I click on this, now this is true. All right. These two methods must be satisfied as true before this can get run. But featured product count is not null. It has 1. So it's going to skip it. Let's see what happens. It's going to skip this. And you can see it has now skipped this. And it's going to check this. So is this true? Is featured product true? So this featured product here, it is not. You see, this is true. But here we are saying, is it false? So it's going to also skip this. And now if I click on continue, and you can see we have also set. So you can see we've able to achieve what we want. And one way to also correct this. So let me just remove the breakpoint. One way to correct this, when you check that client service in here, is to, you can see we are using if, then. So if it checks this and it is not, it's going to check this. But in case it checks this and it is working, when it is done, it's going to still check this again. Okay, so maybe you can use this else. Okay, so it checks this. If it is not, then it's going to check that. If you check this and this is working, it's going to skip the else. Maybe you can also put that and it's still going to work. So you can just put in else here. Okay, so and we can just surround this with this. So you can use something like this, and this will also work. So in this case, it's going to check this. If it doesn't work, it's going to check this. But as soon as it checks this and this is working, it's going to skip the else, then come to the end. Yes, I think this is the right way in order to improve performance in the application as well. Okay, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I believe this is helpful, and in the next video, that's the part 6, we're going to create a component and I'll try to consume the service that you have created, okay, in it.